Hi guys, you're welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Angela Whitehouse. I'm a Nigerian YouTuber. I'm based in South Africa, and today I have a special guest with me. I would like her to introduce herself. So can you please tell us about yourself?
Sure, thank you for having me. My name is Angela Whitehouse. I am a Reiki practitioner and teacher. So I have a holistic school and center in Blegari, where I work on clients and help them through things and teach as well.
Okay, so what is Reiki?
Reiki is a energy healing system that originates in Japan. So energy healing itself goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It was something that actually we all knew how to do, which we've forgotten. It's sort of a forgotten art, if you want to put it that way. And then was rediscovered in Japan, and then slowly filtered its way through to the West, and now you find it all over the world.
So are there different levels of Reiki?
So there are different levels, there are also different forms. So every form of Reiki has different levels. You get very traditional Reiki, you get Western Reiki, you get, once it kind of went over to the West, it diversified a lot. And there were loads and loads. I mean, you even get something called unicorn Reiki. Don't ask me about that, because I have not studied it and I do not teach it. That's where I draw the line. But yes, and if you look at Western Reiki, which is probably the most popular form of Reiki, you've got your first level, which is actually for the person. So it involves self-healing, looking at yourself as a person. And then you've got your level 2, which is where you start to practice on other people. And then you've got your level 3, which in the form that I teach is split into 2, which is advanced practitioner, where you then qualify to practice. And then you can do masters, where you are then qualified to then go on and teach after that.
Okay. Can anybody learn how to do Reiki?
Yes.
For anybody?
Anybody. And that's, I think, the magic of it. You know, all we're doing with Reiki is actually, so I'm going to kind of answer that in 2 different ways. I don't actually like calling myself a healer, because I'm not doing the healing. What Reiki does is it kickstarts your body's natural ability to heal itself, which I think is really, really important. We are not doing the healing. Every single person has that ability. And what I think people don't realize is that we do it in our everyday lives anyway. So if you have a friend who's hurting emotionally, going through a divorce, what do? You hug them, you hold their hand,
comfort them.
You're making them feel better, because you're giving them positive energy. When a child hurts itself, what does a mother do? Kisses it better. Yeah. When we hurt ourselves, we rub it and it feels better. So we're doing it anyway. We're doing it subconsciously. We just don't realize it. So it is a gift that is available to every single person.
So it can be applied to all aspects of your life, not
absolutely
just medically, but emotionally.
Oh, absolutely, because it works on 4 different levels. So it works on your physical, works on your emotional, spiritual, and your mental. I was like, I know I've forgotten one. And on the mental level. That's what is so brilliant about it. It doesn't just work on one level. So in Western medicine, for example, you're working on the physical. If you go and see a psychologist, you're working on maybe the emotional and the mental. Yeah. But Reiki works.
It's all.
Yes, and that's why it's holistic. It's the whole. It works on the whole person.
Okay. So you mentioned a few benefits, but are there other types of benefits?
Yeah, there are so many. It's funny how I battle to answer this question, because I think, wow, there just are so many. So I'd say top of the list for me is anxiety. So good for anxiety, so good for stress relief, and everybody, has some form of stress. Insomnia, pain relief, that's just 4 of the most common ones. So good for that. Depression, another one, really good for depression.
A lot of people are depressed.
Yeah.
But can you also use it as alternative medicine?
So we don't say alternative, we say complementary. And that's quite important, because sometimes people refer to it as alternative, and actually that's not correct. And I'll tell you why, because alternative means instead of, whereas complementary is together with. And one of the fundamental things that you teach in Reiki is that it goes hand in hand with Western medicine. We have to work together with Western medicine. There are benefits to both. So, for example, somebody who's got cancer, it works brilliantly for the after effects of chemotherapy, which so many people battle with. So we're working hand in hand together with an oncologist or a doctor. Very, very, very important.
You need both
Yes.
for it to work
Yes.
really well. What would you say to skeptics, people who don't believe?
I love a skeptic. My favorite kind of person. What I would say to a skeptic is try it. You know, don't knock something you haven't tried. And two of my favorite client stories actually involved skeptics. One was a doctor, and he came and he was very open. And because that's the other thing, what I say to people is just be open to the experience. You don't have to believe in it, but just be open to the experience. And he came and he said, look, I'm going to be very honest with you, I don't believe in it, but a lot of my patients have been for Reiki and I'm intrigued enough to try it. So we did the session, and he kind of, I said to him afterwards, how are you feeling? And he was a bit like, you know. So I was like, I was like, oops. Anyway, I was actually quite a new practitioner when this happened. I then messaged him about 3 days later, and I said, how are you doing? And he said, because that's the other thing to note, is that it can take a few days
for it to work.
Yes, it's subtle sometimes. Sometimes it's mind-blowing. But a lot of the time it's actually quite subtle. And I said to him, how are you doing? And he said to me, I don't know what you did. He said, but everything has changed. Doors that were closed are now opening.
Wow.
Yeah, just energetically, he just felt completely different and so positive. And then my other skeptic, also a guy, what is it with? It's always men, always.
What can we say?
And he came and he said he really battled with insomnia. And when I put him on the bed, I explained what would happen, and I said most people fall asleep. And he literally laughed out loud. He said, that is never going to happen. He said, I never sleep during the day and I don't sleep at night. Within 3 minutes he was snoring. So he came back for another 2 sessions, I think, and then he sent his wife to do the course because he wanted it at home. He didn't want to have to pay for it, and he wanted it daily, and he wanted somebody there to do it for him.
Okay, that's awesome. How regular can you practice Reiki?
On yourself, daily.
Every day?
Every day. So in the first level of Reiki, I think I mentioned earlier where I said it's about yourself, it's about the practitioner, you actually do 21 days of self-healing. And the reason for that is it takes 21 days to make or break a habit.
I've heard that before.
And it's to actually get the practitioner into a habit of having a daily spiritual practice. Now that could be yoga, that could be meditation, it doesn't have to be self-healing. But what I hear most from my students is when it's the 21 days are almost over, they go, oh, I don't want it to end. And I'm like, it doesn't have to.
End. Like, it's more like a lifestyle, I guess.
Absolutely. And if you're looking after your energy on a daily basis, I mean, your life is just going to be so much smoother. And you're going to be healthier too.
Okay, so what would you say was your profound moment? You decided, okay, I want to do Reiki.
Okay, so I'll try and make this story shorter. I always knew that there was something spiritual, that I needed to be doing something spiritual. I felt it deep inside from a child. But that kind of got misled along the way, which I think happens to a lot of people. We tend to go more into a religious route because we don't know what that means necessarily. And then when I was in my 20s, I went to see a medium, and he said to me, your route, your life path is spiritual. You've got to be doing something spiritual with your life. Still didn't know what that meant exactly. It's like, cool, I feel it deep inside, I resonate with that, but I don't know what to do with that information. Because in those days, 30 odd years ago, it wasn't as common as it is now. You know, you didn't just walk into a bookstore and buy an esoteric book that would help you. You know, the New Age movement had been around for a while, but not as much as it is now. So, and there was no internet, of course. You know, so
how did you get information?
So I just kind of carried on doing what I was doing. And then in my late 30s, I then went to see another medium because I was yet again in a bad relationship. And she was very funny. She just said to me, you're in basically deep trouble with your guides, your spirit guides. She actually said they're standing behind you like a tribunal. And I was like,
what are spirit guides?
Spirit guides, we all have spirit guides who try and guide us. So they don't make decisions for us. So we all have an idea of what our life path is meant to be when we incarnate on earth. But we don't know what those are. So we're born with what's called a veil of amnesia. So we don't remember what that is. So a lot of the times we struggle through life going off the path. And spirit guides are there to try and guide us. But remember, we have free will. So a lot of the time we don't listen. So my guides had told me. They told me when I was 24. They told me I knew, but I didn't know what that meant. So they then guided me to where I needed to be slowly to get to that point.
How did you, like, you said you knew, but you just didn't know what path to, like, how did the message come to you, like, you knew you were supposed to go down the spiritual path?
Well, through these two mediums, basically. Okay. So this particular medium I saw when I was 38, she's subsequently become a very good friend of mine, because without her, I always say I'd still be bumbling around. Because she just said to me, because I said to her, I know, she said, because she said, you're in big trouble with your guides, basically, because you're meant to be doing something spiritual and you've done nothing about it. And I said, I know, I understand, but what does that mean? What should I be doing? And she said, because I keep attracting kind of broken men into my life, the story of my life, I was attracting damaged people, because my soul's purpose is to help people and to heal. As much as I don't like that word. So I was attracting these people in because I needed to do that. And she said, as soon as you start helping people that want to be helped, that will stop happening, because that would feed my soul. So she said, go and do Reiki. I've never been for Reiki. I knew what it was, but I'd never been for a session. But she said, that's what you need to do. I literally went home. Then there was internet, because it was a few years later, and I Googled. Found a teacher. She was starting a course the very next week. Walked in. From the first week, I knew this was going to change my life.
So how can you, like, what are some good pointers to find a good practitioner?
I think with a good practitioner, I'm a practitioner or a teacher.
A teacher, and then let's say one, you want to go down that path,
right,
and the other one, you just want to, experience a typical session.
Okay, so a good practitioner, I think you need to find out how long these sessions are. I think a lot of people, the sessions are too short. A lot of practitioners are only an hour. My sessions are an hour and a half, and I encourage my students to do an hour and a half, because you want to work hand in hand with your client. It's not about just lying on the bed and me fixing your energy for you. It's not about me fixing you. It's about you fixing yourself, helping yourself, and you need to do the work. That's exactly it. So the first half an hour of my session is talking to my client, finding out what's wrong, and then why, and explaining to them probably why that's happening, and then giving them homework. So I always say to my clients, you're going to get homework, and don't come back until you've done your homework. I'm quite strict. So I think you definitely want to look for somebody who's going to invest in you and take the journey with you, but has to also encourage you to do the work yourself. Reiki is not a magic pill. You're not going to come for one session and then you're going to walk out of here and everything's just awesome. It's about doing the work, and it's to help you through that.
I also did some research, and I saw that chakras work hand in hand.
Yes.
With Reiki. So what are chakras?
Okay. In Western Reiki, they work hand in hand. So interestingly enough, in traditional Reiki that comes from Japan, they don't work with chakras, because chakras was added in when it was taken over to the West. However, that's not to say it's not a very good addition, and chakras make a lot of sense. So chakras in essence are just energy centers. Okay. So we've got 7 main ones. They've got a lot more than that, but in Reiki you normally concentrate on the 7 main ones. And the actual word chakra means disc. And if you think about the analogy of them being like a computer disc, I'm giving away my age now by using that term. But in essence, if you think about a computer disk, anything that happened to you from, sure, even past lives, if that's what you believe in, but things that happened to you from a child to things that happened to you this morning, every experience that you have had is going to create a little file on that disk. And what happens with the computer disk, if we don't keep it clean and we don't empty it out, it becomes corrupt.
Yeah.
And a similar thing happens with our chakras, is that they'll stop operating at the level that they should be. Or they can be over open, so they can be overactive or underactive. And then our energy is not flowing smoothly, and then that's when things start to happen. And also that's when we start to get sick as well.
So this 7 main chakras, like,
yes.
What are they? Can you mention a few?
Sure. So you've got your root chakra, which is the bottom chakra, and it's red, and that connects us to the earth. It's our physical chakra, so it deals with money, our job, safety and security. How do we feel as a physical human being? It relates to all of that kind of stuff. All the stuff we need to live on the planet as a human being.
Yeah.
Then we've got your sacral, which is one up, and that's orange in color, and that deals with our emotions, and it's our creative center. Very, very important, and a lot of people battle with that. They see creativity as being a painter, every single person is creative in their own way. We just don't often look at it in the right way. It could be cooking, it could be gardening. Find your own creativity. Yeah. And nowadays nobody has an excuse, because you've got the adult coloring in books. And my thing is just enjoy it. You don't have to be brilliant at it. But all of us should have a creative outlet. Creativity is a form of meditation. Because if you think about when you're doing something creative, you're present. You're in the now. You're concentrating on what you're doing. So therefore you're not anxious about what's happening tomorrow or what happened yesterday. So for people who can't meditate, and there are a lot of people who battle to meditate, find something creative to do.
One person.
Yeah, it's a meditation. It acts as a meditation.
Easily.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Do you want me to carry on quickly with others?
Please.
Sorry, Then there's our solar plexus, which is here, and that's yellow. That is our center of power and control. So if you think about when we have anxiety, we feel it here. Even good anxiety, like butterflies in our tummy, if you think about it, we literally talk about that. Yeah. And all that anxiety is not being in control. I can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. It's anxiety. So, and that's why people with a lot of anxiety have tummy issues. Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. Then you've got your heart, which is relationship based. It's not just romantic relationships, it's all your relationships, your relationship with yourself as well. Family. Exactly. And with ourselves, and we often forget about that. The throat is communication. So, a lot of people have a big problem with communication. And also, it's not just about talking, it's about being heard. So you can talk and talk and talk and talk, but if the person you're talking to is not hearing you, it's going to affect your throat chakra. Your third eye is our intuitive chakra. We all are intuitive, we just don't realize it. So our psychic ability, if you want to call it that, many people don't like that. So your intuition. And then the crown, I like to call our connection to the universe. So it's our connection to God, energy, the universe in essence.
So in a typical session, would you be working to open up these channels like this?
Correct. So open and balance.
Okay.
And that's so important, because a lot of people, especially people that are almost new on a spiritual path, they want their third eye and their crown wide open. And they don't really care so much about the physical ones, like our root. And it's so important to be in balance. You don't want 2 or 3 of them to be wide open and the rest shut down. They need to all be working in balance with each other. So yes, it's about opening them up and balancing them.
I'll speak from my own experience too, because about the third eye, as a child, I know that I've always had the ability to, like, I used to have vivid dreams, and even now I tell my sister that I feel like I don't want to open up that channel. I don't know if I'm not ready, so I don't know if there will be a sign maybe later on that okay, you're ready to go down this path.
That path.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's also where it's a discussion, because I have that a lot. People come to me, and what I say to people is, yes, you will know, okay, when you're ready, but however, you can also control it. And I would give people exercises to actually control your third eye. A lovely one to do is actually imagine it, instead of as an eye, imagine it as a dial, like a volume dial.
Yeah.
And you can turn the volume up
or
and
down.
you can turn the volume down. So if you have very vivid dreams and you're not sleeping, before you go to sleep at night, turn the volume down, and you literally visualize it as the dial going down. Yeah, because it shouldn't be something that overwhelms us. It shouldn't be something that interrupts our daily life.
Yeah.
Some people want to be like that medium, the Long Island medium, who just walks around getting messages from people. But even she has to be able to turn it off. And that, if that were me, I'd be being constantly interrupted. I wouldn't enjoy that. So that's exactly it. You turn it on and you turn it off. Or dial it down, rather. Let's put it that way. Dial it down and dial it up.
So you're in control of.
Always.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think that wraps up our interview for today. But the last thing I would ask is, what would you say to someone willing to go down this path? They want to become a Reiki teacher or a Reiki master.
Very good question. I would say do your research. Okay, there are quite a few different Reiki teachers out there. Find a decent course that is a decent length. There are a lot of courses that you can do either online, which I don't recommend whatsoever, and that are 2 days. You can do 3 levels of Reiki in 2 days. How? I don't know. You need to find one where you're going to get the proper education.
So what's the duration of a proper course?
12-week minimum. Mine is 16 weeks, because I just found that people need it more practical. Now here's the thing, this is quite interesting. The Energy Healers Association that I belong to is in the process of getting holistic therapies accepted by medical aids. And I think they've already, I stand to be corrected, but as far as I know, traditional healers are now accepted, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
We're a little bit behind that. When that happens, they will only accept a minimum of a 12-week course. So anybody who's done a course shorter than that will have to redo in order to be accepted as a practitioner by the medical aids. So very, very important. But remember, you're going to be working on people.
Yes. You
need the knowledge, you need the practice. And what happens with these shorter courses, I think people get attracted to it because it's like, okay, well, I can become a Reiki practitioner in 3 days. They end up 90% of the time not practicing because they don't feel equipped. So that's number one. Number two is interview your Reiki teacher. Not the other way around. The teacher doesn't interview the student interviews the teacher.
So it has to feel right. Sorry.
Yeah, I always tease my students or prospective students, and I say, because I'm very big on mentorship, so I want to take you as far as you want to go. And I always tease them and say, I'm going to be in your life for a long time, so you better like me. You know what I mean? You better like my energy.
Yeah.
But yes, check their classes out. How much practical is in the class? Are there other students in the class, which I think is very important, because you've got to learn working with different people, and people find their tribe. So they work with each other, and the amazing friendships are born. Find out what your teacher's philosophy is, on taking you further. There are unfortunately some teachers out there that don't want you to teach because they think you're going to be stealing their students. A good Reiki teacher is going to want to take you. It doesn't matter if you live next door to me. If you want to teach and that's where you want to go with it, I'm going to help you get there. So just, yes, find out where they stand on the more nurturing mentorship side.
Yeah.
Because you still want to have that mentorship after you've finished your course.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and hopefully I'll be coming in for a session.
That would be wonderful.
Thank you, and thank you guys for sticking with us. I'll see you in my next video.